go like for an hour. That was 6 to 9, 2010. Unaweza tuma after nikimaliza tu. Send it. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay, thanks. I can hear you guys.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay,
Good afternoon.
thanks. I think because I see you're now 223, maybe we can give the rest some 2 minutes, then we start. Or I think we can just start, eh?
We give them the 2 minutes.
Give them the 2 minutes.
I think now we can start. So I hope you guys have had a good week. I know many are excited. Soon you will be back to in-face learning in campus. I hope you communicate. That's coming to school soon. Yeah, it's a good thing. Maybe for some of you, maybe some of you would want to continue with the online systems. Yeah, but I think it's not a bad thing after all. But one good thing, one positive is that we've not been able to waste this critical time. We did not just sit about and wait for things to sort themselves. At least you did something. At least you made sure that you did something. It's an important thing. Yes, you are saying that the online, the in-face are only for practicals. Well, we will see how it works. For now, let's wait and see how things will shape out. I wanted to share with you something. That last time I mentioned that that each and every student, or rather each and every person must conduct something called a SWOT analysis of themselves. SWOT analysis is very important. I hope you guys went ahead and maybe did a SWOT analysis of yourself to point out your key competencies, your key skills, and of course how you can mitigate against some of your points of weaknesses. One thing that is critical when conducting SWOT analysis is a table like this. This kind of table is very important because some of the issues normally encompass some of the issues contained in a CV. Some of the issues contained in the CV, yeah, they cross-cut, they cover some of this. But I was saying that a good CV really must be made out of proper SWOT analysis. So maybe some of the things that you might want to leverage on. These are some of the things that really people, employers outside there are looking for, or people looking for collaboration in different things are looking for. I hope you're able to see some of the areas like in critical thinking. Under critical thinking, definitely you need to know how to deal with the complex situation. Are you able to think outside the box? Are you able to look at, now we have 3Ds, but now I hear also that there are 4Ds. Maybe now we are moving to 5D. Are you able to give us like the third face of a coin, in short? That is what I mean. We don't like, one reason why you're in school is to be trained on critical thinking, or critical thinking is also called reflective thinking, where you are able to use that knowledge gleaned or acquired in school to deal with the everyday life situations, whether in academic context or professional context. Yeah, you're able to apply that knowledge to deal with some of these issues. So I was saying that it's only a critical thinker, it's only a reflective thinker, it's only someone who has gone to school, taken their time to go through materials, that are able to deal with complex situations or complex issues. Are you able to handle ambiguous situations, ambiguity? Remember that most of your academic life will be done, some of it is done through practical experiment, but some of it is also theoretical or theory based. So you are basically supposed to decipher meaning or substance out of maybe what is taught in theory. Theories rely so much on hypotheticals. Hypotheticals sometimes appear ambiguous, but really not ambiguous. So it's very important that you also know how to deal with that, how you're able to integrate different perspectives, different points of views at one go to maybe help you deal with an issue. How are you able to tell out, to pick out what we call in arguments, we call them fallacies. Under academic reading, we'll talk about fallacies, where some things that appear logically sound, but are really not really. Yeah, when you look at them at face value, they appear okay, but when you look at the logic, when you try to decipher the truth or the facts in them, they don't meet that threshold. You find that most of them fall short on telling the truth. They are half truths. Those are very common. Politicians use them a lot. Also in everyday life, I think you also do engage in a lot of fallacious arguments or illogical arguments. Please mute your mic. Some people are interfering with us. We ask. Yeah, if you continue like that, I will just throw you out. Yeah, so yeah, ask questions. Then under leadership also, like, are you able to take initiative? Are you someone who can lead from the front? Yeah, many times people will be looking for leaders. As much as maybe you might have the qualifications and all that, you also need to be able to lead a team. Are you able to take charge of situations, take things in your own hand and run the show? not leave things to the manager, claiming that, oh, after all, the buck does not stop with you, responsibility does not stop with you. No. A good quality of someone who is going to succeed in a workplace, you must demonstrate initiative. Everything, every decisions you make, every financial decisions you make, you must justify. Then you need to put points to justify whatever you are saying. You need also to empower, perhaps. You also need to have good judgment, integrity, resolve differences. Yeah, then teamwork is a very good thing. Remember that you can only go so far when moving alone. When you move as a team or as a group, you are able to achieve so much. Are you able to build consensus? Are you able to pull others along so that you reason from one perspective or from a common viewpoint? Are you able to or consensus out of very many diverging opinions or diverging views about things? Working in teams, ability to work in, you know very well that workplaces are characterized by diverse race, ethnic, language. I mean, all those things. There's a lot of differences between different team members. So you must be able to fit in those very diverse contexts. Then what about technical skills? Technical skills are basically now, these are work-based skills. These are some of the things that are professional based. These are some of the things that you will need in order to go about either your academic needs or meet different professional needs. That of course will come with your career later on. Research skills, I think you will be taught at some point. You will be taught. I also today I will cover something under proposal writing, so it's part of research methodology, but I'm pretty sure that there's a particular course dedicated to research. Normally taught in the first year, depending, sometimes it's on the third year. You'll be taught different tools to use. Some of them are there. You'll be able to apply them. What about, are you someone who can, who is flexible, adaptable to different situations? Are you innovative? Are you someone who is able to listen to positive criticism and then you correct your mistakes? Or you're someone who does not really want to be corrected? You know that no one has monopoly of knowledge. So normally we build one another by positively criticizing maybe what someone says. That way you become better and better. What about your problem solving skills? Are you evaluative enough? Are you able to think on your feet, for instance? Are you able to see things from different points of view, different angles of things? Because again, you are not going to solve problem by looking at things from one lens. You must be multi-lensed, or you must be able to build different perspectives in order to really find solutions from different or from a myriad of point of views. Then there's the question of communication. Communication is important. Remember that there's so much you know must be communicated in a way. So having effective and efficient communication skills therefore becomes an asset towards, for instance, you might have a very, a CV that looks, you might say that really gives you an head start in a kind of an interview context. But then translating that head start, whatever is contained in a very good CV, into maybe an opportunity to be absorbed by a company or an organization or a firm, now boils down to how you connect the dots. Are you able to transit from theory, what is contained in some document, into really perspectivizing or putting that in a real context. Because you must have that ability, and that is why I talked about having a reflective thinking. You know, it's only people who are reflective. Some people have their mics not muted. Please mute your mics. Yeah, please, so that we don't interfere with the class. Yeah, so I was saying that you must be engaged really in reflective thinking, and that is why I'm saying that you need to read a lot of materials, literature. Some of this literature will come to bear. They will bail you out actually. Because again, you cannot become a critical thinker out of blues. You can only become a critical thinker by, mastering information. So many pieces of information and integrating those many pieces of information together into one coherent whole. Remember that even in a context like this, you will meet lecturers or teachers of different orientations, different backgrounds. Of course, these people will cover different aspects of things. The essence of all that is basically to that you look at things from a wider perspective. You are not very narrow. When you are too parochial, you might be very good in mathematics, but you can only go so far. You must be able to, for instance, be able to know how to put those things, the statistics into perspective. You must be able to, some of you, of course, I know, like people in electrical engineering, soon, I know you cross into the paths of computer engineering students, because I see you guys, I see many graduates of electrical engineering doing things that are done by people, the computer engineering students. It's important that you have a broad-based view. You're able to build. You're able to look at things from a very broad perspective. So some people are saying that we were doing interviews. But I thought it's also important to share with you this, maybe before we flip and finish whatever was left of the interviews. I wanted to show you these things because some of these things, remember that they are also part and parcel of the interviewing process. Other than maybe being a component of your CV, you also must really navigate and understand how to put these things into perspective. You must be able to put some of these things into perspective. Then public speaking skills. If you're going to be a team leader, you must really possess that kind of skills. Are you able to persuade people? Again, an effective team leader must be able to really persuade people. Also you must be culturally sensitive. You must know that you are dealing with a diverse group of individuals. You must be very inclusive in your communication. Don't be parochial. You are too slanted, maybe towards favoring one group over the other. No, you need to be very sensitive in order to include everyone on board. Then you must also demonstrate professionalism. Professionalism is very important. Even in your interviews, which of course I will tell you is basically acting. Some of you I know will go to private practice, meaning that maybe you might decide to do your own private things. Maybe use the knowledge acquired in school or from life experience to basically run your businesses or run your consultancies. But then some of you will go to seek formal employment. In all those spheres, I think professionalism comes into play. Remember that someone will only be able to hire your services when they believe that you are professional enough. Are you able to keep your words? We normally call it your man skills. do you have something called social intelligence? The ability basically to relate with people in a very amiable manner. Are you adaptable? Are you someone who can easily, pass across as a ubiquitous character? Ubiquity is basically being able to interact, being able to be likable across board by different people. You must be ethical. For you really to be that, you must be someone who keep their word. You must act with integrity. Are you responsible? Yeah, many people are not responsible. I don't know, especially many youth of these days are not very responsible. I don't know why. Maybe you can tell me, but it is something that you really need to nurture over time. It's not something that is going to come overnight. Sometimes success in some of those workplaces really boils down to this. Because in workplaces, everyone is qualified, and some of these skills are what will really make you to stand out or to survive there longer. So, yes, I just felt that it was important that we cover some of those things. So please integrate some of those things we have gone through there. Yeah, so last time we were talking about interviews. Sorry for diverging, but of course that is equally very important. That will also help you meet some of the challenges that you are likely to face on campus, and then of course after campus. Remember that you're only here for a period upon which you will go and face your world outside there. So it's important that you maximize on some of these things. So last time I think I left at the point of you will face different kind of employers or prospective employers. I don't know what's wrong with my Zoom, but I hope it's okay. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we
thanks.
can hear you.
Yes.
No,
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
We can
I
hear
cannot.
you. We can hear you.
Thank you. I can also hear you. Yeah. So it's if it's audible, then it's okay. Yeah. So I was talking about the different kinds of interviews you're likely to confront. Maybe later on in your in a different stage of your life. Of course, I know maybe in the immediate period you might. I know some of you will be looking for internship opportunities. Then thereafter, of course, you'll be seeking maybe full employment or full engagement with those organizations. So it's very important that some of these skills are mastered earlier on. Remember that most of these things are nurtured over time. They're things that they don't fall from the sky overnight, and then you master them. Then you think that now this is going to work out for you in life. No, it's very important that some of these things that you begin nurturing these things, then they become part and parcel of you. So yeah, one of those things that you're likely to be confronted with is answering negatively framed questions. These ones normally come from something called stress interviews. We call them stress interviews. So this kind of interviews basically are meant to provoke you, basically to test your maybe temperament and ability to act. They're basically trying to test your patience. How are you able to act in in a context where you are under duress. One important attribute that you must exhibit during such a period is being able to keep calm and try to deal with the situation as it comes. Stress interviews, sometimes someone might provoke you by asking you a stupid question as that's maybe like Julia, you are too short. Do you think that you are up to you really up to the task? Can you survive this job? So a good response, such a provoking question would not be really to take back, to respond back at your interviewer. Rather, you're supposed to keep a lot of calm. Maybe try to be the adult in the room. We normally say being adult in the room. You know, that way you are able to make your interviewer really get to see the calmness in someone, and you are basically your ability to deal with your ability to deal with criticisms, for instance. Are you someone who is going to be easily annoyed by small things? So interviews, basically, some of those, they will look for those kind of some of those things. Like they will try to provoke you, to get you out of your comfort zone. Don't respond by being aggressive, but rather respond by, you know, appearing like an adult. They can ask you, for instance, that, oh, you know, I can see there are a couple of ladies in this class, but then they'll say that, you know, engineering is not for ladies. How will you survive here? I don't know how you will respond to such a question. Maybe can one of the ladies respond? How would you approach such a situation? There are those subtle stereotypes that ladies are not really.
That's BS.
Yes.
That's BS.
What is BS?
That's bullshit. That's bullshit. You can't tell me ladies don't do engineering. Will you scare wapi?
Should be calm.
No. Yeah, can you mute those mics? I mean, that is one of those sample questions you will hear many people outside there asking. So you need to find a way of responding. You don't respond by saying bullshit. That might not be taken very kindly. What they're basically trying to ask is, what do you think sets you apart? What do you think sets you apart? Maybe from this men, because naturally most of the engineering students are normally men. So basically they're just trying to ask what sets you apart, because maybe the job specification might require sort of manly attributes. So in short, try to find a better way of packaging yourself. Otherwise, most likely you might not be considered. So learn to deal with stress interviews. I think to pass across. Then there are, of course, behavioral interviews. Behavioral interviews basically are supposed to assess your skills and basically how your skill sets fits or meet the competencies required of a particular position in an organization. So the behavioral interviews, basically, the employers normally have a predetermined specific set of characteristics maybe they're looking for, or what we call competencies. So in that kind of context or behavioral interview situations, you're supposed to link your competencies or your skills. You're supposed to link your skills, whatever you know, or whatever academic, whatever knowledge you've grasped in class, whatever knowledge you've grasped from different work experiences, you're supposed to put that into perspective and try to fit them with the requirements of a particular position. So that therefore makes behavioral interviews also a bit challenging. Employers normally, or interviewers normally, ask open-ended questions sometimes. You're supposed to, maybe they can give an example of a particular situation, then they ask you to, can you respond? Maybe what would be your view? How would you approach such a situation? They give you hypothetical situations. So you need to learn how to deal with hypotheticals. Other than dealing with hypotheticals, begin by conducting something called a SWOT analysis of yourself. And that is why I said, before even you make your CV, please conduct a SWOT analysis. It is only that SWOT analysis will enable you to yeah, I think I've not allowed you guys to talk. These guys who keep on interrupting. Yeah, keep your beaks shut, my friend. Yeah, so it's important that you conduct a SWOT analysis based on maybe your skill sets. The skill sets are from your education background and, of course, work experience, and then any other relevant experiences. Put that into perspective and then try to deal with the questions that come your way. That way you're able to make much more sense to the interviewing panel. That might increase your chances of getting hired, or basically being accorded the opportunity to serve in an organization. Yeah, unless you have any other questions on interviews and all and the rest, you can of course ask the questions via chat. I want to move on to the next thing. This time I want us to look at functional communication, and I want to look at specifically focus on professional writing. Sorry, proposal writing. Proposal writing is another aspect of functional writing, other than maybe the CVs. Like now we have covered the CVs, the curriculum vitae. We have talked about formal letters, and I told you that cover letters falls within the purview, the broader gamut of formal letters or formal writing. This time I want to focus on proposal writing. So proposal writing is a very interesting area, a very important task. I think you need to focus, you need to pay a lot of attention on some of these small details. I know many of you after this will maybe be writing proposals, seeking fundings for different opportunities. So you're asking what I mean by hypotheticals. An hypothetical situation is someone describes a situation that might not exist in a practical sense, and then they ask you to maybe give them a picture of that particular situation. They can ask you maybe, can you, in your opinion, what do you think? For instance, we are building the University of Nairobi towers. I think soon you will see the towers when you resume in-person learning at the university. So there's a very big tower there. The tower, I'm told that the tower, the drawing, the architects who drew that building were actually not maybe the seasoned architects you think. That tower thing was drawn by some students from faculty of architecture. It was a moot competition. it was a mood, and then people competed, and someone was able to someone won, and whatever their design was used to put up that kind of building. So yeah, before putting up a building, you are asked to come up with a prototype. So a prototype is an hypothetical representation of some abstract representation of maybe what otherwise would exist in a reality. So I'm talking about proposal writing. I told you guys that functional writing is it's very important. It is some sort of, it's supposed to give you or give the students some autonomous skills that you will use both here in the campus and outside it. Maybe when you become a professional, you will apply some of the skills maybe grasp from class. So functional writing, proposal writing therefore becomes very pertinent. Some of the key issues that we need to know, I just want to really glean over it and bring out maybe some of the key things that you need to know. Yeah, that way at least we're able to have a thought or an idea of really how this thing should be written, what should be contained in it, how do you go about the whole process of writing it. Yeah, so before even beginning to write a proposal, the first thing, the starting point is basically why. You should ask yourself the why question, that why are you even engaged, why are you even involved in this particular enterprise or exercise. Then answer the question why. What is your motivation? What is your justification? Yeah, so what is the need of that what is the need of that proposal? You adequately respond to that question why, then the next question you need to respond is for whom. For whom is your audience. The audience might be maybe if it's a school proposal, because I know maybe you will be asked to write those things at some point, the audience of course here will be the teachers. Sometimes you want to engage in a project, so maybe there will be the funder. So sometimes you're writing to the university maybe to give you financing to maybe undertake a particular project, because university also normally funds particular projects. Yeah, so you must begin by really responding to those basic questions. Yeah, so yeah, as I said, maybe why, we have answered the why there. Then when answering that why, it's very important that you be persuasive enough. Remember that communication, where writing, of course, is encompassed within, serves different purposes or different intentions. One of them is, of course, to persuade the audience. Proposal writing, you must be very clear, you must be very concise, coherent, all those things. You must be very clear about the idea you are presenting, that you are pursuing, and you must put it in a manner that is sellable, that maybe the potential funder, something that can convince the potential funder that whatever you are saying is serious and that maybe you deserve to be funded. So you need to be very persuasive. No descriptions here. Remember that now the era of descriptions comes to an end. You have to be very precise with whatever you want. So while you describe your project, you will need to convince your funder on why it's you who deserve that funding and not any other person. Many organizations normally call for proposals, maybe to undertake a consultancy or to undertake a particular project on a specific thing. Yeah, those proposals, you need to respond back to them in a very persuasive manner in order to win, because sometimes they receive so many applications. They have some calls, some proposal calls attract as many as 30,000 applicants or applications. So you need to really stand out of the so many applicants for maybe fewer funding opportunities. So there are several reasons, maybe. Okay. Yeah, there could be many reasons, maybe why you might have decided that the route you will use to get money to get funding for your particular project is going through a donor, maybe because the money involved for that particular project is big, and then maybe you have financing but is not adequate, so you might looking for additional financing. So that is why you might want a funder to come in. Then yeah, as I said, you need to really know whom you are writing to, your audience. That must be very clear. The audience, you must be very clear about maybe which funding agency, maybe what are the possible funding agencies for particular projects. Who maybe in those particular organizations is likely to read your project? How are they likely to perceive maybe your writing or your request? Yeah, you need really yeah, you really need to do due diligence, do your research, so that in the course of writing your proposal, some of these questions are answered. So what about the packaging? How do you package? How do you put together your information? I think someone, please just mute your mics, please.
Oi. Beja tayari sio?
Yeah, you need to mute your mic, please. So yeah, so packaging. How do you put together? How do you package an information in a manner that it's likely to attract, basically to win the hearts of maybe those potential funders? How are you able to put your information in such a way that it's sellable, it stands out from the rest, from the so many applications maybe received by a particular organization? There's really no particular specific format in when it comes to some of these things, but at least there's consensus on some of the issues, some of the things that needs to be contained. Consensus basically means that there's some general agreement on maybe what needs to be contained in your proposal. Some of it, maybe in summary, you need to name, address, telephone numbers, email address, and the title of the person you should make contact with. Yeah, that is very important. The goals, the mission, concerns of the donor, size of the donor, of the grant the donor usually gives. What is the donor decision-making process? How long does it take? When you apply for funding, it takes, it goes in how many stages, at what point, rendered, how is it rendered? Yeah, so that you are not engaging efforts in vanity. You need to be very clear or precise on some of those things. Some of the overall considerations you need to put or ensure are encompassed when writing your proposal. The first thing there is, of course, you must stick to a particular template or a prescribed format. Yeah, that one is normally called a remit. The remits normally have remits normally contain maybe the accepted or the prescribed format for a particular organization. Every information that you need to know is normally contained in a remit. That I'm going too fast. Okay, I will try to slow down a little bit. Yeah, so a remit. A remit basically is template that outlines maybe how a particular format should look like. It also outlines the deadlines. In project writing, let me call terms of reference. Terms of reference. Terms of reference is called TORs, terms of reference. So the terms of reference normally outlines everything, the expectations of the potential funder. In the terms of reference, they normally outline to you everything they need, like what should be the length of your proposal, what information needs to be included in different sections, how should that information be captured. All that information is normally contained in the terms of reference. So the terms of reference normally gives a remit for a particular proposal. So I was just bringing to your attention that you need to have that. But another thing, that some of the other issues that you must ensure are taken care of when writing your proposal is that you need to be very clear on what you are writing. You need to have a very clear title. Then in the body, like as I told you with academic writing, you need to be very coherent, be logical. One section of the proposal should naturally fit, the transition from one section to the other should be seamless. There should be a correlation between different sections of the proposal so that you have one coherent whole document. This section speaks to an issue in the next section, like that. Your language, you must be very formal. You need to be very clear. And that is why I talked about clarity of thought, clarity of expression, whatever idea you want to put across in a proposal, you need to be very clear. And you also need to be, you don't need to be too verbose. Use very few words to explain whatever you are asking or requesting for. Avoid use. I hope you are taught what jargons are. Eh?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
What is,
No.
No.
Just mute your mics.
No.
Mute your mics. Yeah, but I take it that you should also take it upon yourself to do some of these readings for yourself. Like I think jargons you should have been taught in the first class. Yeah, but you should have been taught what jargons are. Anyway, jargons are normally technical languages that are specific to different disciplines. Avoid using what I mean by jargons are technical terms. Avoid using words or terms, terminologies or concepts that you think might not be understood by someone outside your professional context or academic context. Speak it as concepts, things that can be understood across board. That is what I mean. Then each part of the proposal should provide a brief but informative narrative as possible. Yeah, and that is why I told you guys you need not to put so much information. The strength of your proposal really lies in having a clear idea. Later on, engineering students normally write projects, academic projects. You know, the part or component of your requirements for graduation. So when writing projects, we normally say that when you are very clear about maybe the idea, whatever idea you want to present, when you are very clear on it, and then you have a way of tackling whatever idea or problem you've put up there, then we say you're almost 40% into the project. So what I mean here is that try to be very clear about maybe what you're writing on, and then that way it's very easy to know even in terms of transition, someone is always able to second guess whatever you are moving, whatever the direction, your path, or basically your thought flow becomes very clear when you are very clear in the problem you are trying to tackle. So what are some of the components of a proposal? What is it that is contained in a proposal now? The contents here are basically the template. So what is the template of a proposal now? As I say that nothing is cast on stone. What we have here is basically a working template. I told you that different funding organizations will maybe give different remits or different templates, or maybe some things to be included that maybe might not be captured in whatever I will tell you. But generally what I'll give you here is a working template. It's something that can be adjusted accordingly depending on the different contexts you will find yourselves in. So the first thing is the cover letter. A proposal, the first page is normally the cover letter. The cover letter is basically on the applicants. You could put a letterhead on your application. It is signed. It is addressed to the relevant authority in the organization, maybe the prospective funding organization. So the letter should basically demonstrate familiarity with the mission of the funding organization or agency. Yeah, that way, and that is what I talked about, linking maybe whatever projects you want to do with whatever that organization is doing. That way, you are able to speak from one. You're able to be on the same plane. Then the next thing is normally a proposal summary or an abstract. The summary or an abstract. A summary, in French they call it resume. Yeah, the French people call it resume. So it's normally the summary is basically in brief. The summary is supposed to give us a full picture of what is contained in a proposal, basically in brief. Maybe sometimes I might not have enough time to go through the whole thing. I will only go through the summary to have an idea about maybe what you are writing. So the summary is everything, all the small, it basically contains all the small details. It captures at one go everything captured in a proposal. Then you need to the next section is describing the grant seeker or the funding seeker or the organization. The funding seeker or the organization. Sometimes this place is called the profile of the organization. Basically, under this section, you need to tell us why you think your organization is qualified to carry out the proposed project. Of course, this should be based on your key strengths, and that is why in the first part here, I've talked about conducting something called the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis therefore becomes very important because the SWOT analysis is what really describes your organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and strengths. What you've been able to do, what makes your organization best placed of another organization to conduct a particular project. You're asking if remits are found in organization site. Yeah, I mean, remit is normally what is, organizations will always give you maybe the elements, what should be contained in a particular proposal. So that thing is what is called a remit. Sometimes other people call it TOR, terms of reference. Yeah, so maybe you're likely to find it. The organizations normally when they're putting their call for proposal in their websites, they are very clear. You're asking what SWOT analysis is. SWOT analysis is basically an analysis, a systematic analysis of an organization's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the strengths are supposed to mitigate. The strengths are supposed to mitigate against the threats, as opportunities mitigate against the weaknesses. What I mean is that use your strengths to cover for the threats, and then use the opportunities. Use the opportunities to cover for the weaknesses, maybe that are inherent in your organization. These are weaknesses that are specific. Sometimes they might be extraneous, but some of them can be specific to your organization. So use them to cover for that. That is what I mean by SWOT analysis. I want you guys to maybe you take your time to go and read something on SWOT analysis. Take your time to go and read on SWOT analysis. Yeah. But otherwise, the SWOT analysis is very important. I think in the next class, I could do some small SWOT analysis and share with you. Please mute your mics. Or where you're supposed to get the SWOT analysis. Yeah, SWOT analysis, if you just write online, if you go online, you will get them. They're just online. You're asking me to share notes. Yeah, someone is disturbing us. They have decided to remove that person. I don't like people who keep on really interfere with our class. Yeah, then yeah, so please, under profile of organization, begin by conducting a SWOT analysis. The SWOT analysis will bring to fore or bring out your organization in a very good light. It's supposed to bring out how maybe one organization is more qualified than the other to conduct a particular project. So as I've mentioned here, the SWOT analysis is supposed to give a lot of credibility to a particular organization. So please, I want you guys to go and read more on SWOT analysis. Then the fourth element is problem statement or needs assessment. A problem as so what is normally contained in the problem statements or needs assessment, or something called, some people call it justification. Under problem statement, this is where basically you you problematize an issue. This is where you basically tell us what is the missing link, what is the gap that maybe you are seeking to fill, maybe with your investigations, and therefore that the gap you are seeking to fill really deserves to be funded. So yeah, you need to be very very categorical in your problem analysis on that particular gap. Try to be very clear, concise, and try to support whatever you are saying using maybe existing evidence. Could be information contained in other materials, secondary materials, to bring out the gap that basically your paper or your investigation is going to fill. So you need to tell us the purpose of why that proposal, who are the likely beneficiaries, what are the social benefits of that particular proposal, the gaps to be addressed, and then the specific manner through which the problems might be solved might also be included there. Then, other than problem statement, having a clear problem statement or conducting a needs assessment or a justification, you also need to come up with objectives or project objectives. The objectives are goals or the desired outcomes. This is where you want to. Objectives are basically the activities you need to do in order to arrive at the goals. Your goal will have been captured in the problem statement here very clearly. So how do you arrive at that particular goal? You arrive at that particular goal by coming up with a set of objectives. Objectives are basically, as I've said, activities that are supposed to lead you to a particular goal. So some people asking that should you describe your weaknesses in the profile? Yes, you need to bring out your weaknesses, and then you say in your SWOT analysis, you are supposed to clearly point out the opportunities, how the opportunities you have address some of those weaknesses. Gotta do what I gotta do. Tick tock. So it's normally very important that you
Can you tell the girls to mute?
Yeah, so yes, you need to bring all those things on board, all the strengths, weaknesses, how the strengths should deal with the threats, and then the opportunities normally address the weaknesses. That can you bring the weaknesses without putting yourself at a disadvantage? No. Remember that no one is perfect. Actually, people will weaknesses. Point. Normally, it's also a catch point. So someone is asking, can you talk about weaknesses in a way that sounds like strength? Yes, you might also want to look at it from that angle. Yeah, you can point out your weaknesses and say how maybe basically say how you will mitigate against those weaknesses so that they become a source of strength. So yeah, that also makes sense. But I would want to see prototypes. Maybe some of the. I would want to see some of the SWOT diagrams. Maybe you will have made for yourselves. Yeah. So objectives, I told you, are the activities that you do to accomplish your tasks. The task here will be, of course, be well brought out under a problem statement. You're asking if your weakness is going to stand in your way to maybe getting a job. I've told you guys that you need to tell us, you need to come out very clearly and tell people how maybe you will deal with some of those weaknesses. It's normally important. No human being is perfect. And if you pretend to, before a panel, that you are perfect, or maybe in your proposal that you are perfect, I don't think that is possible. You need to bring out those weaknesses and just explain how you'll be able to address them. Yeah. So that is, that is to do with the objectives. Then a project methodology or design. Yeah, project methodology and design. Yeah, so this is basically, this one basically addresses the how you will basically address the objectives, brought out. The objectives, I told you, are the activities you will do to achieve your ends. So how do you address them? You address the objectives by, in your research methodology. So basically, the objectives outline a plan of action of basically dealing with the problem, which will have been outlined in the problem statement. The objective should clearly bring out activities and how these activities are supposed to be achieved. How these activities are supposed to be achieved to realize your goals. Yeah, the section should be reviewed to make sure that what is proposed is realistic. Yeah, so as I said, project methodology is basically where you will tell us, you will describe for us maybe your sources of information, how you are going to collect information or data, and then how you are going to analyze that data and make sense of it. That is what we mean here. The process of collecting data. Gathering data is the first thing. Of course, first you begin by telling us how do you go about that process of collecting data. Then you gather that data, then you analyze it, and then you tell us maybe the implication of that data. What does that data mean? Maybe what you will have uncovered from your investigation. What does it mean? What is its implication? So that is what is contained under the project methodology. You must be very clear where you will get your information from, how you will analyze that particular information. Yeah, basically to make sense. Then the next thing is project evaluation. So project evaluation is done at different stages, but it is part of the project cycle. Here you will tell us basically how you will undergo through the, how you will. Yeah, so yeah, so evaluation, you can say, can be in the short term, medium term, and the long term. You must bring out all those issues. But then there are two issues to consider when doing project evaluation. You must do something called product evaluation and then the process evaluation. Product is where you address the results that can be attributed to the project, as well as how maybe that particular project has achieved the specified objectives. Then the process, it is basically done to look at the consistency with which a particular project is being implemented. Maybe what could be some of the possible drawbacks, what could be some of the things standing in the way to actually realizing some of your objects. So all those things are contained under process evaluation. Remember that evaluation is normally done to inject efficiency, to correct on your weaknesses. So it's something that must be part of a project cycle, and it could be done by a team, an internal team, or you could be experts from outside. Yeah, that is something that you will need to bring out, because at the end of the day, we really need to find value for each and every project. You cannot just engage in a project that really does not show any value, any money value. Then when conducting a project evaluation, you need to come out on your method of measurement. How are you going to do it? Whether are you going to do standardized tests? Are you going to do interviews? Are you going to do observation? All these things are very important. You need to be very clear. Then funding, future funding. How future funding has to do with the project sustenance. Future funding has to do with the project sustenance. You must bring that out very clearly. How maybe you will fund that particular project long after maybe your current funder is long gone. So someone is asking here why I've mentioned data collection in project methodology, yet it is in evaluation. No, data collection is in methodology. Methodology, I told you guys, is basically our methodology in anything is basically how to do that. But also when conducting evaluation, you must also collect data. Remember that you can only do evaluation out of some information. You cannot just come and it's like you've dropped from the and then like you come and claim. No, you must do it from somewhere. But I mentioned that project methodology is the process of basically achieving your objectives or goals. So there's methodologies where you really need to collect data or information to conduct to basically achieve whatever you intend to achieve. Yeah, under future funding, you need to give us a roadmap. You need to clearly bring out a roadmap how you will, beyond the funding you receive from the organization, how will you make this sustainable? How will you continue this thing? Yeah, so that's, yeah, are you still going to rely on maybe funding from other organizations? Are you going to self-fund? Is the project cycle coming to a close? You need to bring all those things. Maybe the project is coming to a close. Yeah, that way you might not need additional funding, but then if the project is to continue, then you need to talk about it. Then you need to talk about the budget. Yeah, when doing budget costings, you normally have two parts. You have something called personnel costings and non-personnel costings. Personnel are the people who conduct the project. So you need to talk about the specific items that will be funded out of the personnel, and then non-personnel costs. Yeah, these ones, of course, will vary depending on the nature of the project, requirements of the funding source. Remember that I mentioned to you that funding normally comes with a lot of strings attached to it. They will want you to bring out, to give them all this blueprint so that they know what we are talking about, and then they see how they'll be able to see whether their money is making, whether their money is getting value. Yeah, that has to do with the project budget. You will have a project a budget outlay where you will outline the small items, whether it is transport, whether it is subsistence allowance, whether it is communication, whether it is all those small things, and then you need to bring them out very clearly in the funding. Then someone is asking, okay, there are no questions there. Yeah, then proposal project, sorry, appendix. Appendix is where all the informations that maybe need further elaboration, but when you're not able to do that elaboration inside the document, are normally put at the tail end of the document. For instance, you might have a map of a location. You might think that the map might be too bulky inside the document. You might bring it at the tail end of the document. Staff resumes, the CVs, you might put them at the end back at the tail end of the document, all the statistical data, everything. All these informations maybe that did not find space in the main document are normally put on the appendix. So the section is normally called the appendices, and then now you have appendix 1, appendix 2, appendix 3, yeah, depending on the material you are putting in there. Yeah, appendix 1, appendix 2, all those things. So someone is asking what are non-personnel costs. These are costings that are not specific to the personnel. For instance, you might need stationery. You might need other than stationery, you might need other small items, basically to support a project that are not really linked directly to maybe money that you will pay that are specific to keeping the personnel running. I don't know whether you guys have additional questions on project proposals. Yeah, but in short, I was basically, guys, trying to give you an outlay of what this thing looks like. Rome was not built in a day, so of course I expect you to go through documents in order to inculcate some of these things. I know some of you guys are very anxious. You want to see notes every now and again. You ask about notes. You will get the notes. You will get the notes. So you should relax. But more importantly, you need to understand how to go about writing some of these things. Someone is asking, do you have to include references in your appendix? No, references are normally placed separately. There will be a reference section. There will be a reference section, so you should not worry about that. Someone is also asking that you should not worry about that. I don't think that should be a very big issue. Yeah, I can also see. I was just trying to going through some of these your questions. Other questions that maybe we did not talk about. Yeah, but one thing also that you guys must pick from this lecture is you should go out there and conduct SWOT analysis, because this SWOT analysis is a ubiquitous framework that you will not really apply it maybe when writing proposals, but you will also need it. You will also need to use it maybe when doing your CVs, when doing your yeah, maybe when preparing for interviews. You will it will add so much value maybe to your SWOT analysis will add so much value to, especially when going to face a panel. You will be able to, it gives you an head start because you know from which perspective to address issues. So when you start early, you will be able to adequately prepare for some of those issues. Then in the statement, in the problem statement, yeah, so yeah, I told you that problem statement, or what we normally call justification. Yeah, in that particular section, you are supposed to clearly explain. You're supposed to clearly bring out maybe the issue you want to interrogate, and the reasons, your explanations, how you basically explain that must be very compelling. You must really give your potential funders good grounds to maybe support your project. So problem statement is where maybe you will begin by having a topic, something to talk about, and then how do you talk about that particular topic? You talk about that particular topic by problematizing it. So in the problem statement, that is where basically you bring out the missing link, the gray area that maybe you seek to fill, or the problem you seek to solve through your project. You need to be very clear on that particular project that you need to solve, and how maybe solving it is going to add value or utility to maybe your society, or it's going to add value, to add utility maybe to solving a certain or a particular concern, a particular problem. Yeah, so it's very important that under the problem statement or needs assessment, what we call needs assessment, you are very clear in maybe the issue you want to talk about. Yeah, remember that there are myriad of issues to be resolved. So it's only your problem statement actually brings out a specific issue, and in your methodology, that is where you will clearly tell us how you seek to solve that particular issue. So because some of you said that, I don't know, you have I think the Muslim congregation mentioned that you guys are supposed to, you have some mosque, some prayer session. I think yeah, I think today we will leave slightly early to at least give you guys time particularly this one is basically in the interest of the Muslim team. We'll slightly leave the class early so that maybe they could attend to their church, their church concerns, because they requested earlier on. Yeah, so maybe unless you have any further questions, I can. Yeah, I've checked through, but I can't see maybe any further questions.
Enrollment code.
Yeah, the enrollment code. You're asking how many references to be used in a proposal. I mean, you can use as many references as possible. Remember when we were discussing academic writing, we mentioned that when writing academic papers, you can use as many references as possible. The most important thing is that all the authors cited in text, I mean, all the authors you borrow from their works or you borrow their ideas must also be included in the last section, which is normally what we call the reference section. So yeah, the references, the number of references are not limited, but basically compilation of everything, all the people you've used, maybe their ideas in writing a particular document. Yeah. So I think on that note, the class stands dismissed for today. So we will share the notes. So thank you.
please share the note.
Thank you.
So